Hi, Confidants. I want to introduce you to a podcaster called Martin Baumann. And his podcast, Story Untold, is fabulous. And I think you should check it out as soon as you can. Here's a conversation that I had with Martin. So, Martin, can you tell me about your podcast and how you got started?
Sure. So Story Untold for me is something that started a few years back. I was living in Cardiff, Wales at the time and wanting to interview interesting people, kind of like you do on your show. And so it was a matter of meeting all these amazing people and hearing their stories and believing that within each person there is a really incredible story to be told.
And how long have you been doing your podcast now?
Well, this podcast for me started in April of 2017, and it's been great. Just the chance to talk to different people, managed to speak to former NASA mission commander, a guy who ran across the Sahara Desert, people who have overcome addictions and people who have dealt with mental health challenges, all kinds of things. Some really inspiring stories.
Martin, how can people find your podcast?
The website is storyuntold.blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Also on Apple Podcasts and Google Play and Stitcher and just about anywhere that you can find your podcasts.
Welcome to Hong Kong Confidential. I'm Jules and I'm your host. I'm an Australian woman and I've been living in Hong Kong for many years. I'm a mother, a teacher, an author, and I want to share my wisdom and the wisdom of others with you. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hi, Confidants. I want to tell you about my Patreon page. I've joined Patreon in the hope of getting sponsorship for my Hong Kong Confidential podcast. Patreon is a great way for my listeners to get on board and sponsor me with monthly payments, and that goes towards my production costs and rewards for my members. If you're interested in checking out my Patreon page, please go to patreon.com and search up Jules Hannaford or Hong Kong Confidential. I would really appreciate you visiting my page. Today I'm here with Dr Anastasia Belkova. Hi, Anastasia.
Hi, Jules. Fantastic introduction.
Thank you. We just got started.
She practiced my name. I have to tell you that.
I'm going to cut that out. Anastasia, can you tell me what Wake Up and Raw is?
So this is one of my projects. This is my passion project. But to answer this question, actually, I'm going to take you to my other project. So my main thing that I'm doing right now is a Goodin.HK, which is a guide to all things healthy in Hong Kong. I don't prescribe what's healthy. I'm not telling people, this should be healthy or that should be healthy. So this is more of a platform, whatever you think healthy is, I'm going to help you to find that. So Wake Up and Raw, it's kind of going one step further. It's for people who want to dig deeper into questions that people don't usually like to talk about. Things like crisis, addictions, depression, sexual shame, and all those uncomfortable questions. So Wake Up and Raw, this is basically workshops, events, meetings, meetup groups, trying to find more self-awareness and trying to deal with the uncomfortable little things that we have within us.
So as a part of Wake Up and Raw, are you doing a whole bunch of little seminars where people come along?
Correct.
So it might be find your passion or things like that. Tell me about some of your Wake Up and Raw seminars. What have you been doing?
So I've done a few. Some of my favorite, we did a series of workshops on heartbreak. That was very, very interesting. We did a series of workshops on crisis, so coming out of a personal crisis, and that's my personal favorite. We did sort of innocent addictions workshops. Innocent addictions meaning sort of destructive numbing out behaviors. Phone, chatting, going out too much. Things that people don't really want to admit that it's an addiction, but let's get real, it's an addiction.
Can you tell me a little bit about the heartbreak workshop? That sounds so interesting.
Yes. The idea behind Wake Up and Raw, and that's actually, I think, one of the things you were asking me earlier of the recorded chat. What is Wake Up and Raw? Maybe I go back to your first question. if in strict terms, I'm basically trying to combine the uncombinable. So in the West, if you do Western kind of psychology, which is what I'm coming from, I'm a doctor in psychology. So we are taught a very scientific way of thinking, scientific way of dealing. And people on the streets, people these days in Hong Kong, we are all rational, maybe overly rational. So we want to understand exactly what is the cause, we want to be very scientific about knowing what influences us, what influences our health, influences our mood and things like that. But then on the other hand, as I've seen myself, psychology and science, it does a lukewarm job of explaining what the hell is wrong with us. It's not enough. For me, psychology is not enough. Science is not enough. There is another side that science is not really able to deal with. And that's where the Eastern practices come in. So in Wake Up and Raw, I bring things, I say Eastern wisdom, Eastern practices. So I'm trained in yoga, I'm trained in tantra, I'm trained in a whole bunch of other Eastern wisdom kind of things. So in Wake Up and Raw, this is what we do. This is what I do. And this is why I bring other professionals. I bring people who deal with all the different kinds of things, be it energy, be it clinical psychology, be it emotional aspects of our well-being. So it doesn't matter what you call it. My point is that you have to look at things holistically. So going back to the heartbreak thing, this is kind of what we did as well. Heartbreak, dealing with a heartbreak, it's not enough for me. It's not enough to look through, 10 steps to get over the heartbreak. Open any magazine, Google, you're going to find it. I'm sorry.
Doesn't work.
No. It scratches the surface. Not just in heartbreak, in many things. How to lose weight, how to be more healthy, how to get a guy, how to get a career. We all know the how-tos. If you ask anyone, random person on the street, they're going to tell you all the how-tos, but it still doesn't work. And that is my problem with all these, psychological approach or the mainstream approach. You have to look at things holistically. So, long way of answering your question about heartbreak. Long way of explaining why in a sessions of overcoming the heartbreak, why I bring things like yoga, for example. Yoga is a wonderful tool. It's a widely misunderstood tool, but it's an amazing, and it's becoming more and more commonly accepted. It's a tool to understand your body, to understand yourself, to understand your emotions. We are kind of numb from the head down. If you ask people to identify how they feel, 9 out of 10 times, they're going to give you how they think, not how they feel. So in these workshops, like the heartbreak workshop, some of the things that we're trying to do is basically figure out why this particular breakup hurt so much. Why this? Because, any change, any external change, it can affect you strongly or it doesn't have to. So why this particular guy walking out on you or you walking out on the guy? Why is it bringing such disruption to your normal life? And to deal with this question, you have to go away from the normal way of looking and thinking about things. You have to, you don't have to, but I bring things like meditation. I bring things like guided sort of self-exploration. I bring things like yoga, all aimed at the same thing. Figure out what's happening, what's really happening, what's really underneath. Underneath saying, oh, he's an asshole, he did this, he did that. No, what is underneath that? So that's like the main point of the whole thing. And then giving practical tools. I invite psychologists, I invite relationship coaches, I invite a whole bunch of professionals who might be more specialized in dealing with certain aspects of coming out of heartbreak.
And do you find that people that obviously come to the workshop are suffering from heartbreak and they're looking for that kind of support?
Yes, absolutely. And that's actually why, I call it sometimes heartbreak yoga. I call it, and people think, oh, is it a gimmick? Is it why you call it like that? You have to speak the language that is understood. There are so many amazing initiatives these days in sort of alternative well-being, alternative health, but very often they sound very off-putting. Maximize your potential, connect with your heart. A normal, let's say, high-functioning, high-performing woman or man, when they read this, it's a cringe-producing titles. Understandably so. We don't want to think of ourselves as broken. We don't want to think about connecting to the high potential. What does it mean? What does it mean? These are big words. These are big ideas. So I feel that framing the workshops and framing these, it's not a teaching, framing these ideas in very practical terms, like heartbreak, like crisis, like maybe addiction, is a lot easier to relate to people.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And if you can connect with somebody, then they're more likely to come along. Exactly. And there is something, isn't there, in people not wanting to feel too broken or too messed up. And that if they feel that they can just build on what they're doing already or they can develop themselves, then they'll be more open to coming along.
Absolutely. This is exactly what I see. And I see myself as a bridge between the, between the spiritual world or the alternative health or all the out there things and the real world. Let's put it this way. So people think we're all about black or white, good or bad. I'm either broken, I'm whole. I'm either this or that. That's illusion. It's not true. So people who are, let's speak about an average corporate person who might have a very good career, who might look amazing, who might, feel as a successful person in some areas. These people are the ones the hardest to get to. They have the hardest times admitting that they are failing in something. They're really struggling to say, hey, I don't know anything about sex, or I'm afraid of admitting that to me it's a performance-based thing.
Why do you think that is?
Because that's how we're conditioned.
Because they want to be in control, or they want to put across this persona of being in control.
Of course. So, it depends who we're talking about, right? Again, we're wildly stereotyping right now. If we're talking about the Asian society right now, that's the whole idea about the face, about saving face, presenting a good picture. But you'd be surprised, it's not just the Asian culture. It's very much so among the experts that I see here in Hong Kong. My personal specialization for my PhD was narcissism. And we live in Hong Kong. This is
wow, narcissistic society. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Got you. Wow. Why did you choose narcissism as your PhD study?
This actually was something I came to kind of by accident. So I started my research. My original focus was theft, employee theft. That was my original interest.
Sorry, what sort of theft?
Employee theft. So white collar crime. So that kind of merged into me researching more deeply into white collar crimes, the psychological profiles of white collar crime criminals. And not just white collar crime. Crime is, we love defining things. We love defining. What is the difference between crime and deviance? There is a fine line. Today it's a crime. Tomorrow it's no longer crime. Someone rewrites the law. So I kind of started looking more widely. What makes someone break the rules? Be they formal rules or more social norms? And then the more I started looking into this and all different types of crime or deviance, I kept arriving at the same profile, the narcissistic profile.
So can you summarize the profile of a narcissist?
Narcissist, it's, if you look at the diagnostic manual that we use in psychology, very clear-cut 9 or 12 characteristics that define a narcissist. To sum them up, the main probably criteria or characteristics of a narcissist, a few things. It's a lack of emotional empathy. So not being able to empathize with others' feelings. It's manipulation. Many people think that narcissism is too much ego, too much self-confidence. And that's why I avoided starting with that.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind is someone who looks in the mirror all the time and loves themselves.
Yes, and that's even the myth, right? The myth of a narcissist, that's how it came about. There was this guy in Greek mythology who looked at his own reflection in the river. He fell in love with it, and he was so mesmerized that he fell inside the river and drowned. So, okay.
Oh, right. Interesting.
This is where it comes from. This is where it comes from. The thing is, and this is why I avoided starting with the overconfidence, because for many narcissists, for most narcissists, overconfidence is a protection tool. So it's a surface, it's skin deep. Narcissism has such a bad reputation, narcissistic individuals. Everyone uses these words now as an insult.
It's a negative, isn't it?
And it is a negative, but you have to understand that it's a troubled, dysfunctional person. at the bottom of it, it's a very troubled person. It's a person with a lot of pain. So, and that's what I feel is misunderstood in these days. We kind of, we focus on he's overconfident, he's a bitch, or he's an asshole. I'm sorry to use these words. I'm Russian, so I do.
It's okay, I'm Australian. It's not even swearing in Australia.
Oh my God, fantastic. I should move. But again, at the bottom of this, it's some kind of struggle. It's inability to manage own emotions. And it's a massively, again, misunderstood thing.
So yeah, really, really interesting that that's where it all began for you. But coming back to the heartbreak and the crisis and the innocent addictions, which I think is a very interesting term that I've not heard before. Do you use the same kind of techniques and philosophies in each one with the bridging the psychology and the wellbeing aspects and things like that? Or are they different?
Yes and no. They really differ. They really differ. I mean, they differ as I evolve personally. They differ as the group evolves. They differ in based on what kind of topic we're dealing with. My main point is that myself as a collector of all these practices, collector of all these, be it scientific language or, weird out there Patanjali kind of style Indian writing, it doesn't matter. For me, the point is you have to speak the language of the people who came to your workshop. So you have to understand what they know and what can they accept. It's not about pushing them into anywhere. It's about understanding, well, today, what are you comfortable with? So they do vary. They really vary.
So as a therapist or a facilitator, you have to adapt to the group.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yes.
So what type of people have come to your crisis groups or what sort of crisis are they coming to deal with? What is a crisis?
That's a very good question. Very, very good question. Again, academic question. You have to start with the definition.
Please.
So crisis, let me talk about the symptoms of crisis. That's probably the best way to explain it. Crisis can take many different forms. A symptom of crisis can be feelings of complete loss, feeling they have no direction, confusion, feeling overwhelmed. But it can also be apathy. It can be numbness, emotional numbness. You feel nothing. You're not excited. Depression is the next step, right? It can be feelings of needing constant agitation, constant stimulation. So not being able to be with yourself, not being able to deal with your own feelings or with the silence. That's a crisis as well. So it can take many forms. These days, crisis often comes after some kind of external radical change. It can be loss of job, it can be breakup, a divorce, it can be usually it happens through something external. You feel like a rug has been pulled out of you, but it doesn't have to. It can be natural. You can just come to disenchantment. You can come in your career, you have it all, but you feel nothing. Or it can be, you've been working really, really hard for something. And then what's the next step? Or you feel confused. What do you choose? Where do you go? It can take many forms.
So it can be from some sort of accident or event, or it can be just a stage in your life.
Correct. And that is actually one of the main points. It's a very natural phase in life. These days we're surrounded by machines. God bless machines. But we start thinking of ourselves as machines. We expect the constant productivity. As the time goes, we produce. You come to work, it doesn't matter who you are, if you're a teacher, if you're a banker, if you're whoever. It's expected that every day you will produce, you will make a step forward, and you will bring something useful. This is such an artificial construct. Nature does not operate like this. Nothing in nature operates like this. Look at the seasons. We have summer, blossoming. We have winter, death, nothing happening. Look at the day and light. Look at everything. Look at animals. Look at everything in nature. Nothing goes up, up, up. It's a cyclical thing. Chaos, nothingness, destruction, darkness. It's a natural part of our life. But we're not thinking in these terms anymore. We always expect the up, up, up. The mood has to be always up, up, up. We have to be
and
always
more,
up.
more.
And more. Fake. That's not real.
And people keep searching for this gratification or this self-fulfillment that doesn't come from getting material possessions or having success.
But it's not even material. That's the scariest part. A lot of people are turning into, from the 60s, we had this massive movement of self-actualization, this massive, who am I? And it's great. But now we have this spiritual shopping, spiritual bypassing. So we try all these practices.
That. Spiritual shopping, where you go around and just try different things.
Exactly. And it's the same as material. It becomes the same numbing out of, this feeling that we don't deal with. We just mask it. We mask it. It doesn't matter if you mask it with physical products or you mask it with beautiful practices like yoga or meditation. Doesn't matter. If you're not dealing with what's underneath it all, you have not dealt. You've just applied pretty colors, pretty layers on top.
So if you're doing all this sort of mindfulness stuff like the yoga and the meditation and going off to be creative and do these kind of things, but you're saying you're not getting to the root of the problem or you're not delving deep. So how do people do that? How do they get under that layer?
So you have to sit down and go deep. Everything has two sides, right? It's two coins. All these positive things that you just mentioned, they are wonderful, but it's only one side of the coin. So the question is, what are you running away from? What makes you uncomfortable? And it can be, you can still use the practices of meditation, of yoga, of drawing, of art, of creativity. It's just a tool. It's just a tool that you can use towards masking something or digging deeper. It can be a tool to bring out the positive, and you should be doing that. But you should also be doing the opposite as well. You can sit down and ask, instead of just, concentrating on the positive and thinking the positive, which you should be doing. But the other times, it's an important question to ask. What am I running away from? There's this thing. So I give you one example, maybe. In the crisis workshop, the first things that I teach is the uncomfortable meditation, looking into your enemies. So I ask people to identify, who did you get angry with over the past month, let's say, or a week? Who did you judge? Write down the names. Really sit down, not just as you're walking, really give yourself half an hour and really go deep into these questions. Who did you hate? Who did you get angry about? So spend some time on this. And then look at this one more time. There is this saying, I can't remember who said it, but your enemies are your teachers. Your enemies are your wisest gurus. Because the things that you judge, the things that you hate, this is something in yourself that you are not willing to accept or you have not come to terms with. If you're judging a girl who is walking on the street dressed in revealing clothes, why are you judging her? Why is she getting to you so much? Why is a lazy person getting to you so much? You know what I mean?
I do. But are you saying that the person who's making that judgment then also dresses in the same way, or they are also lazy, or is that something in themselves that I don't quite understand?
I'll rewind. Okay.
I understand, but I want to know what the other perspective is.
So let's go back to childhood. To explain this, let's go back to what's happening.
Please.
What's happening here?
Great.
So when we're born, all of us learn by seeing, all of us learn by being told, all of us learn what's appropriate, what's not from our childhood. So that's really the best place to start. So in our childhood, let's talk about women, because, you and I are women, is just the easiest. In your family, you get certain behaviors get reinforced. Oh, you are a nice little quiet girl, or you're so pretty, or you're so studious, or you're so nice. And this is what girls usually hear. Boys have the other side. Let's just concentrate on the girls, just for the example. So if you are, let's say, a tomboy, or if you're loud, or if you are lazy, you don't like something, or if you are not what you're told, what happens to this girl? You start thinking, oh, it's wrong to be this way. So you start denying a part of yourself. You start pushing down a certain aspect of your personality. I'm sorry, but nothing can be wished away or cut away. You are what you are. No matter what these beautiful self-help books telling you, change and become and be, you are what you are. You can enhance, you can develop, you can learn how to deal with something. You cannot make yourself a different person. You are what you are. So if this is your part, you try to cut it out. You try to disown it, right? but it's still there. It's still there with you. It's still there with you in adult life. So maybe as an adult, you would like to express it. And we don't even know. That's the problem. We don't even know what these parts are. They are suppressed so deep over so many years. There's layers and layers and layers of protection mechanisms. There's layers and years of trying to say, that's not me. That's not good. I shouldn't be that. I shouldn't do that. How many of us say that I shouldn't be, I shouldn't do? So coming back to this, the dressing or the judgment, that's these things coming out.
So that's how you'd like to be yourself, perhaps,
exactly.
or what you...
Exactly. That's something you're not allowed, either something you're not allowing in yourself, or something you haven't quite come to terms with. Something that maybe you don't need to dress like that, but you haven't really quite found the expression of how to express yourself, how to be.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That makes it so clear. You've explained that so well. That's great. So you're saying if I have a conflict with somebody or I'm unhappy or angry with them, quite often what I'm angry about in that person is some reflection of something in myself that I haven't come to terms with, or that I would perhaps like to be more like.
Something that it's never about the other person. It's never, ever about other person. Ever.
Interesting. Oh my gosh, so interesting. I'm having all these little things popping into my mind that I can really relate to this. So that's so interesting.
Yeah, and this is basically what, the meaning and the point of all these workshops. This is what we do. We're trying to find out. We're trying to find out what's there, what's forgotten, what's missing, find a way to connect with it.
And going on to your innocent addictions,
yes.
which is a great term. So it's not the big ones like the sex and the drugs and the cigarettes and the alcohol, but it's just the phones.
It's the numbing out
the
behavior.
Things that we use to, was anything that sort of controls your life, isn't it? Addiction or anything that you can't stop.
So I've had a couple of weeks ago, we've had a brilliant panel discussion, and one of the ladies who was one of the panelists, she's a researcher in Hong Kong. You were researching addiction in Hong Kong. So she gave the best definition I ever heard. So being addicted to something is not about wanting a thing. It's about needing a thing.
Right.
It doesn't matter what the thing is.
Right.
Could be person, could be phone, it could be anything. If you are mindlessly grabbing it, or if you're reaching it because you need to achieve certain state or to suppress certain state, that's an addiction.
Right. Got it. So with your innocent addiction workshops, what sort of suggestions do you make for people to be able to change their behaviours and let go of these addictions?
So different things work for different people. And again, that's the beauty of it. I don't believe in this is what you do. All of you, this is what all of you do.
If you had the answer, you'd be very rich.
We're all different. But that's the answer. That's the answer. We are all very different. And the answer is look at what you are. Look at what works for you. So for some people need accountability. So having a checklist, there are these wonderful apps. I'll give you a very practical tool. For example, there is this app called Done.
Done as in D-O-N-E.
D-O-N-E, correct. Right. So this is where you map out for yourself daily or monthly or weekly what kind of behavior you'd like to get rid of or would like to reinforce. So for example, you tell to yourself, literally, it's just like a checklist. So every time you did something, every time you grab your phone, every time you have a drink, every time you do something that you want to get rid of, you take your phone and click. It gives you statistics. It gives you very, very eye-opening visual depiction of what you're actually doing day to day. How often have you actually today touched the phone? What about yesterday? What about 1 week before? I love graphs. I love diagrams. And you can totally map out, today I felt this way and look, I touched the phone 10 times. Let's say we're talking about the phone. And let's say yesterday I was, I didn't touch it once. So that's one practical way.
Well, that person doesn't have a problem because somebody who's addicted to their phone would be touching it
all the
50,
time,
100,
all the time,
1,000 times a day.
Log it and put it there.
And I guess when you see the numbers, then you really can realise that you have a problem. You go, oh my gosh,
my point exactly.
Who would think that I touch my phone 500 times in one day?
Yes, it's a very eye-opening thing. Right. Yes, it's an eye-opening thing. And just seeing it, we're all in denial. We're really, our brain, it's like a path of least resistance. With everything, with nature, with the way the river flows, with our brain, we follow the path of least resistance. We don't want to admit things. We have our track, we have our way, so we kind of suppress everything that's uncomfortable. So this practical, suggestion is just It's just a way.
Well, that's one of the ways of recognizing the addiction, isn't it?
Yeah.
Once you've recognized your addiction, then what do you suggest you do?
So really, the way to deal with anything, it's two kinds of self-awareness. It starts with self-awareness. So what I've just told you, it's kind of intellectual self-awareness. So you intellectually see just how much you're addicted. So the next step is sort of emotional self-awareness. So let's dig deeper. What's underneath it? And that's when you have to, I'm sorry, I'm Russian, I'm dark. You have to get uncomfortable. You have to dig deeper. You have to go and sit down with these uncomfortable feelings. What are you masking? And you'll say, nothing. No, what are you masking? Again, what are you masking? And for different people, it can be different tools that can bring out this question. For some people, it can be meditation. A guided meditation is a wonderful tool. Meditation has a bit of a hippie aftertaste to it. Doesn't have to be. Now they teach meditation in psychology, in clinical psychology, universities, in all of universities, pretty much, the meditation is taught.
And there's loads of apps available now, like the Headspace app and the Calm app, and there's lots of ways that you can get into meditation through just simple processes.
And there is also many ways to do meditation. Meditation is not sitting cross-legged and closing your eyes and putting your hands in a mudra position and saying Om and concentrating on your feelings. That's one of the millions of ways of meditate. When I speak of meditation, it's more of a trying to find a way to connect with what are you actually feeling? What are you actually notice something about you? And these apps that you mentioned are great. Personally, I would recommend something like my workshop.
There's a good idea.
No, the thing is, look, you need to be guided. For example, yoga or meditation, they were never, from the beginning of times, it was never meant to be A, a group practice, and B, a self-taught practice. It was always a guru-led thing. You need guidance. You need a way to, you just need someone to, guide you through this, not explain, not teach. Forget about this. I'm not a teacher myself. I'm not a therapist. Like the wonderful word you used is facilitator. It's just asking the right question. Helping you interpret what's coming up. And that's really what we'll have to do. We'll have to dig deep and find out what's happening.
That was what I was going to ask. When you're saying you've got to dig deep, I was going to say, how do you facilitate that? Do you see a counsellor? Do you see a psychologist? Do you go and do these practices or do all of these things?
Whatever works for you. I'm a believer that you have to try it all. You tried yoga once and you say, no, it doesn't work for me. No, sweetie. There's so many types of yoga. There's so many types of teachers. There's so many types of meditation. You have to try it all. You have to figure out what works for you. Try a guided meditation. Try a YouTube meditation. Try a app. Try a workshop. Try alone. Try in a group. Try several times. But you have to be seeking. You really have to be seeking. And that's why, again, I'm coming back. It's all linked, all of these things. Why the crisis is so important. Because if you're masking a problem, if you think everything is okay, you will never find the motivation or the time to keep seeking, to keep looking.
So are you saying that everyone has some sort of crisis that they should be dealing with?
No, unfortunately, all of us are waiting for a crisis to start dealing with things.
So you're saying do the preventative measures first.
I would love to believe that it's possible. And that was my personal question, actually. This question I have with my friends and, fellow therapists and psychologists so often. Do you need to have a crisis to start dealing with things? Do you need to experience a breaking point to face things? It seems yes. We're busy. Look at Hong Kong. We have our agendas backed up, full. We're always doing something. So who has the time, right? Until you feel that you're broken, you need to find something. So unfortunately, this breaking point, it seems that it's kind of needed. I hate to be saying this. I hate that this is the real, the conclusion that I'm coming to, but it seems to be.
Like you said, crisis can be in all sorts of forms, and it doesn't have to be something massive sometimes to get people getting onto it.
Hopefully that's the thing. Crisis is just a symptom. That's something you are denying, something you are rejecting. The problem is that we're living lives that is kind of surface life. We're not experiencing everything that we can experience. We're not having everything we want to have.
Is that because we're so busy and we're just focused on working and getting money and family and the main key things?
But there's many reasons. You make yourself busy. What is busy? What's the meaning of busy? Wake up an hour earlier, say no to this, change your job. No. I know I'm speaking, and I anticipate the criticism that I'm speaking to a very certain layer of society, those who can choose. And yes, I acknowledge that. I am speaking to people who are in a fortunate position to be choosing what to do with their life and choosing how to earn and things like that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the busy life, it's a choice. Everything is a choice. You can choose what your life looks like.
Yeah, it's true. But I think some people are really chasing money or chasing fame or chasing success, but that is their choice. But it may not make them happy.
And that's what you have to experience. It's look, you can try, and that's my point. You cannot start giving your values to someone else. Different people have different values. We're born with different things. Just because you understand that, you want fame because something happened in your childhood, you were underloved, it doesn't change the thing. You still want what you want. So this person needs to experience it. This person needs to come to some kind of awareness, to come to that step of realizing that, okay, I have fame and now nothing. But that's the most ironic thing, because people who come to my workshops, these are the people who have it all on paper. They have the money, they have the fame, they have everything, and they're so miserable.
And why do you think that is? Because they're putting all their time into something that doesn't make them feel good and happy.
Because we think that, if only I get this, I'll be happy. If only I get... So they spend all their career. That is look, there's a statistics in the US. I'm not sure what it is in Australia or Hong Kong, but over 60% of menopausal women in the US have gone through some kind of depression. Why? Well, because at this point, at this age of life, the roles, the masks that we put on ourselves, they start to fall off. So work, you are a manager, or you are this, or you're a teacher, or you are a nurse. It's dwindling down, right? The career is coming to an end. Your kids are grown up. Marriage, maybe it's still there, but, it's kind of cooling off. So things that you identified with, the roles, the masks that you used to wear, they're starting to drop off. And what's underneath? Nothing. Nothing, because you never ask this question, what am I? You just go on the train of this, I do this every day. You just ride this acceptable train, and life is more or less okay. And yes, you work into something.
And then suddenly everything's gone and you're left thinking, who am I?
Exactly.
And what am I about? And what makes me happy?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's absolutely very interesting, especially you're talking to a menopausal woman right here. Hong Kong Confidential is brought to you by Teresa's Turkish Towels. Teresa imports the finest 100% Turkish cotton towels that dry very quickly, making them perfect for Hong Kong's humid climate. Say goodbye to the traditional smelly and stinky towels and try the colourful and fresh selections available online or in Teresa's Wan Chai store. Use the promo code CONFIDENTIAL online or mention this podcast when you visit in person to receive $100 off your entire order when you order 2 or more towels. With 100% satisfaction guaranteed or your money back, the only thing you've got to lose are the musty smells that permeate traditional terry towels. Visit www.hkturkish.com in order to get the address and directions to Teresa's semi-hidden location. So you've recently finished the Festival Du Feminin in Hong Kong. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Correct. Oh, it was fantastic. So it was a 2-day women-only event. It was 2 days of workshops, one-on-one sessions, games, dances, pampering, all things woman, basically. So it's not a wellness event. It's not a spiritual event. What I mean by that, it's not, we come and do yoga, or we come and shop, or we come and buy things. What it is, we're trying to address questions and issues and concerns of real Hong Kong woman, of a busy corporate Hong Kong woman. So we worked with topics like relationships, sex, lack of self-confidence, body image, public speaking, all sorts of things. So everything that really a real woman might have struggled with or might be curious about, but might not be willing to admit, or, saying that, okay, it's a problem, I need to explore it. So it was just beautiful. I'm still,
You're still writing, it only just finished a few days ago, didn't it?
Yes, it was just a few days ago, yes.
So how many women came along to this?
So we had about 200 women. 190,
no way, did you?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so disappointed I didn't come. Oh.
Next time.
Next time. When will your next one be? Same time next year?
So a lot of things will change. A lot of things will change about this. I need to digest for sure. I'm on a digestion stage. Yeah. It's definitely going to happen again. It's definitely going to be different format. It might be no longer Festival Du Feminin. It might be open to men as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of shifts that will be happening for sure.
Do you find that you work mostly with women aside from this festival?
I do, but it's not by choice. I know how to speak to women. So I am speaking about vulnerable, uncomfortable topics. I am speaking about shame. I am thinking about guilt. I'm talking about topics that are difficult for women or for anyone to admit to. And I figured out, or through all this, all this time, all these years of working with these things, I know how to talk to a woman. I don't know how to talk to a man. It's even harder to get a guy to talk about these things, but they experience the same problems. That is not to say that, men are curious as well, and men have pain as well, and men have confusion as well. Men have confusion about sex, wildly so. Oh my gosh. God bless. So confused. I mean, women too. But, addiction and disorders, the same thing. But for a guy, there's even more of a barrier. There's this, there's more of a need to act like everything is okay.
Right. Whereas do you think women are more open to talking about issues with sex and more personal things?
Yes. And it's more, for no one in the modern society, it's not okay to be publicly undone, for sure. It's not okay to be either too happy, ecstatically happy, and it's not okay to be undone. You have to be you have to be in the middle. If you are jumping on the street and singing and laughing, you're going to be
crazy.
Looked at. Yeah. You're crazy. If you're crying, you're crazy too. So, but for women, it's more acceptable to show emotions. It's more acceptable to show vulnerability. It's more acceptable to admit that something is not right. For men, it's even harder. And I'm starting to feel even, like this needs to be addressed. But at this point of life, I'm not sure how to address that. But it has to come for sure.
Well, I'm sure that you'll work it out and maybe bring in some male therapists or people that can sort of facilitate the male side. It just has to be
non-threatening. Yeah, it has to be non-threatening. You cannot, I've had this conversation so often. Like, for example, we have all these sex workshops or sexuality, let's say not sex workshops, sexuality workshops. So many people are curious about it, but when they try to bring a friend or a partner, the partner resists, saying, well, what's wrong with our sex life? It's not that there's something wrong with it. It's just,
you could enhance it or you could learn more.
But there's this barrier, it's admitting that there's something wrong with me.
Why do you think there is such a taboo in discussing sex or developing your sexual life?
I mean, there's a long history, right? There's there's Christianity, there's a very long history. They say that even the whole idea of monogamy was invented so that it's simply a resource control thing. If a woman in a tribe has too many children, just from resource point of view, it's hard to feed all those mouths. So that's how monogamy came about. So to me, this is a societal structure, societal control. But what works for society does not necessarily or almost never works for individual. So just because something is socially acceptable or unacceptable, it does not mean that this is in the best interest for individual. Vice versa, really. Usually it's the opposite. So we kind of have to start being a bit stronger than that. We have to start, just because these norms exist doesn't mean that they're correct.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I think that, having conversations about things and starting the dialogue is the first step into breaking down these barriers and challenging some of the social norms, isn't it?
And it doesn't have to be, I'm speaking very rebellious things. I'm speaking like, a little bit challenging the norms. It doesn't have to be that way. This is what I like personally to do. You don't have to do that. No. Speak to your partner. Find a way to discuss with your partner what feels good, what doesn't feel good. We don't do even that. It's all about performance. It's all about faking. There's no honest dialogue. So that's where it has to start. It has to start with yourself and with people who you trust. And if you cannot open up to your partner, is this the right partner?
That's a very good question. That is a very good question. Might be a few people out there pondering things right this minute.
Keep asking uncomfortable questions.
No, it's great. Tell me a little bit more about shame and the work you do with shame. And why do you think people feel shame?
Again, this is the whole childhood thing, right? Again, and I have to introduce you to this wonderful lady. Do you know Dr. Brené Brown?
Yeah, she's fantastic.
So there's
and
a
I've
lady
seen her
here
TED Talk
who facilitates her workshops. Amazing lady. I definitely have to introduce you.
Okay, great.
So she will be the one to talk about this. But basically, the whole shame thing is precisely coming back. Again, let's come back to our childhood. We are told what's loved, what's not loved. We all want love. All of us, we all want acceptance. It's not even an opinion. It's if you love science,
innate.
If you love science, I can give you scientific references for this. You know, it's been shown that we need love, we need acceptance, we need to belong societally. So from early age, we're told what kind of behavior and what kind of traits will be loved and what kind of traits will not be loved. So we are conditioned. But you cannot, your nature is, it is what it is. You still have it. So that's how shame develops. You still recognize these feelings. For example, if you, I don't know, if you're loud and you are supposed to be a nice little girl, or if you're a sensitive guy and you're supposed to be this macho man, this is how shame develops, because you feel these unacceptable, unlovable things and you start suppressing them and you start feeling, oh, how can I feel this way? How can I be this way? I won't be loved. I won't be accepted.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That makes sense. That really does make sense. You had a seminar titled, Can Women Have It All? Can they? Is it possible?
Yeah.
What is all?
Yes, this was exactly one. So this was one of our panels at the Festival Du Feminin.
Oh, great.
We had mostly workshops, but we also had 2 panels. So can a modern woman have it all? This was a very interesting conversation. Very interesting. First of all, what is all? And why do we ask this of women? How come we never ask this of men? Do men have it all? What do you think?
I don't know what all is. And I think it's going to be down to the individual of what constitutes all.
Right. But for us, we're starting to think, what is all? All meaning I have a successful career. I have a family. I look fabulous. I have the money. So all means in all fronts, you have something that you're proud of.
And I imagine women can't have it all because they're more selfless and they're putting their eggs in too many other baskets.
No one can have it all.
Yeah.
No one can have it all. Look at men. Do they have it all?
No, I don't think anybody has it all.
That's not,
well, I don't
there's
think,
no such thing.
That's what I was just going to say. I think we always want more and we're always striving for this better life and we're always looking for new things or new challenges or new ideals. And so if that's the case, then nobody ever feels like they have it all.
Yeah, but, we are kind of, many women feel kind of pushed into achieving here and achieving here. If I'm a successful woman with a very successful career in my 40s and I don't have a child, people ask, you don't, what happened? Oh, it's okay, you'll meet someone. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
So it's more about judgment of others, isn't it? Oh, you've been single for 20 years, you poor thing kind of thing.
Why don't we do this to men? Why don't we do this to men, huh? When a man is successful in politics, it's fashionable to have a family. It's kind of nice, it looks nice. Let's not talk about politics. Let's talk about corporate career. Okay. Someone who is a CEO of a big corporation. Great achievement. How many of them are married? How many of them are happily married?
All of them, aren't they? Well, a lot of them. I don't know.
Are they?
Do you know?
I don't think they are. I don't think they are. There are divorces, there are struggles, but no one is asking this of men. It's only the woman who is being asked this question. And then, let's take the other side. Let's forget about this, corporate expectations. Let's look at a lady who is in her 40s, who is, married, who is with kids at home. How many women will look down on her and say, oh, you're just a housewife. Or she's going to say, I met women like this. I'm just a housewife. What? It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you do. There is a judgment. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you look. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you achieved. You will always be judged. And that was kind of more of a abstract aspect of this kind of modern woman have it all. That was one of the points. What the hell is all? Yeah. So let's stop asking this question.
Yeah, so it's an interesting debate. And just instead of striving for it all, just be and enjoy and do
define what is all for you. What makes you feel whole. Not having all on paper, the tick list. We all go through this to-do checklist. Oh, okay, yes.
No. Forget it. So why do you think self-acceptance is so difficult for women, and how can we overcome that negative self-talk and that low self-esteem?
Yeah, the negative self-talk is a really...
it's a big one for women and
massive.
men, or more so for women, do you think?
It's an interesting question. I would love to know more. Again, I don't hear men as much as I hear women, and I'm very curious to know. Men, if you're listening, tell us.
Yeah.
Tell us if you do this. Tell us if you pinch your fat in the mirror and say, oh, I hate this. For women, we're judged by the looks a lot, right? It's, it is external. A lot of things are based externally. So for women, it's a very, very palpable pressure to look very, very well. And I see that, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how differently you're perceived. I dyed my hair pink. You cannot see on the podcast, but I dyed my hair pink. I was always very conservative. And just changing from the hippie color, let's call it this way, to a conservative color, do you know how much it changes? People who start talking to you, people who suddenly feel braver to talk to you, or corporate people who do you differently.
When you're back to a natural color, you mean?
Yeah, just from brunette to pink, it's just hair color, people.
Yeah. I had a friend who was very blonde, and even her, not even the way that she went back to brown, but it wasn't even just the way that people responded to her. Her behaviour changed.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
She actually started to become a little bit more self-controlled and a little bit sort of better behaved.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that was really interesting.
But that's the thing. We package. There's two sides, right? You might be kind of releasing what's inside you with the external. But yes, it also works the other way. You kind of fitting into the norm. And again, that is the issue. And that is, what you asked about the self-talk and, the self-hate. We live in boxes. We live in boxes of expectations. You should be this. It doesn't matter which box you subscribe to, but almost all of us subscribe to a certain box.
And we always feel like we don't fit into the box we want to fit into, rather than accepting our flaws. But why can't we accept our flaws?
Because we're told to be perfect. Look at the magazines. Look at around. We're all told you should be looking like this. You should be looking like that. There's such a massive expectation. There's such a massive looking up and down. There's so much judgment. There is so much, but it's, to me, it's, again, this is a societal structure kind of thing, because society runs on, there is this thing, economy, we'll have to buy things, we'll have to spend money because the economy goes, economy goes well. So you can look, there's many layers of explaining this question, but ultimately the point is, it's a box. It's a box that you're pushed into by the friends, by the parents, by the society, and you get so used to this box that you never even think what's outside this box. What is outside this box? Is it really that important? If for different people, it's different box. It's for some people, it's, you have to be a certain weight, you have to be a certain shape, you have to be a certain degree, you have to be certain, you have to read certain books. It doesn't matter, but there's always some kind of box. So for women, usually the box is external look. Being chosen, being liked, being praised. We always judge women by how they look. You're a pretty little girl. You're pretty. This pretty always comes up. So the prettiness becomes obsession with women. Industries, they keep feeding it. They keep shoveling this, pretty, buy makeup, go to the gym, don't eat. Come on, we're obsessed. We're absolutely obsessed. We're obsessed with these standards.
And do you feel that if women could let all of that go and just not worry about how they look and aging and their weight and just get into like making a difference in society or getting into charity or doing things that are creative, do you think they'll be happier?
Don't get me wrong. Being pretty is great if that's where you want to be.
So it's about finding what's right for you, isn't it?
Yes.
And that's the key.
Exactly.
And that leads me to my next question about how you talk about people needing to wake up and live fully.
Yes.
How do people do this?
And that's my point. Digging deep. Everything
comes back to this message, doesn't it?
Everything comes back. And the
self-talk and the self-esteem and all of that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is what I keep repeating over and over. Deliberately, I keep coming back to this message. Deliberately, I keep coming back to you have responsibility. Don't blame society. Don't blame your parents. Don't blame society. Just figure out what is true for you, what is right for you. It all comes down to that. It's not about what people tell you. It's about what you like.
And you talk about people dealing with stress and escaping stress and not falling into addictive behaviours. Do you think that that's a way that people manage their stresses with addictive behaviours?
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Addiction is just, absolutely. There's a bunch of protective mechanisms and addiction is one of them. It's just the most well, it's not the most. It's a very dysfunctional way of dealing, but it is nothing but a way of dealing. It's escapism. Numbing out, it's escaping. It's escaping the reality that you do not like. Escaping the reality that you cannot deal with. Maybe you think it's overwhelming. Maybe you think you don't fit in. Maybe you think too poorly of yourself. It doesn't matter what aspect of it is not landing well, but you are trying to escape something.
And that comes back again to digging deeper and doing these different practices and working out what's right for you to make you happy.
Absolutely.
And it varies for every individual.
It varies for different individuals, but really the main message and the main practice that I can recommend to anyone is being comfortable alone, with silence, with yourself, with your own thoughts. Be as much as possible alone.
And with that digging deeper, like I immediately think about going to a counsellor or a psychologist or a healer or something like that. But what about journaling? Is that a way to dig deeper?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So again, I will never prescribe this is work, this doesn't work. There's so many ways. And not everyone has 2,000 Hong Kong dollars to go and see a counselor or 1,200 for a second visit. Not everyone has this money. But you don't have to have. I kind of slammed the internet earlier, for giving you these clear-cut steps. But the thing is, internet is a great resource. So many podcasts.
Yes.
So many articles, so many ways.
So many apps as well.
So many apps.
Yeah.
The thing is, the way we usually... we have a problem, we log on, we look, how do I deal with heartbreak? How do I deal with crisis? We read very quickly, we read this article in 5 minutes. For sure it will say something like go for a walk or do
get back to nature.
And you're like, yeah, I heard it all. Oh my God, but just because you heard it all, have you done it? Do it.
And it's taking that step, isn't it? It's taking that actual step. Like intellectually, you know what you perhaps need to do, but it's actually, so many people say, I haven't got the time.
Bullshit.
Yeah, it's crap, isn't it?
Bullshit.
Yeah, you can find the time.
You make your
time.
It's
an excuse not to address your problems.
Absolutely. 5 minutes, all it takes. All it takes is 5 minutes. I used to say I'm the dumbest smart person, so this is why I kind of delved
you
into...
say what? I'm the dumbest
smart person.
I love that. I'm going to use that in
It's true.
I'm going to use that in the social media. Talking to Dr Anastasia Belkova, the dumbest smart person. I'm going to use that. Okay, great. Why do you call yourself the dumbest smart person?
Used to be.
Oh,
so
used to be.
That was before the Eastern practices came in. So I'm the reason why I'm speaking to all these, rational, logical people, because I'm very much one of them. I know what I am. I'm very successful in certain things and very rational. And you read all these amazing things. I did my PhD and, I understand many things rationally. Understanding something rationally is only halfway through a journey. You have to feel it. You have to let it pass through yourself.
Anastasia, can you tell me a little bit about Festival Du Feminin, how it came about?
Yes. So Festival Du Feminin came about, actually it's a very personal experience. It's something that I personally went to last year in Bangkok. So this is a global brand. They do festivals all over the whole world. And very, very sporadically and without, planning, I just ended up completely by accident in Bangkok that weekend when they were doing it. And that was even before I started all this wake up and raw and all these, more holistic practices. So that was me, as you say, the dumbest smart person, knowing it all, but I never felt much. And Festival Du Feminin in Bangkok was the first place I actually felt something. Not just intellectually understand things, but I felt. So something came up, and I was thinking, oh my God, that's fantastic. There are feelings. There are all these things that I wasn't aware of. So this is why, long story short, I decided it has to happen here in Hong Kong too. And two reasons why I felt the need to bring it to Hong Kong. And it's kind of two pillars to Festival Du Feminin. The first pillar and the first reason for doing these women-centric practices is not to say that women are these poor victims and these creatures that need propping up and, this feminist movement. Not necessarily. Actually, the opposite. Hong Kong, like any busy city like New York or like London, but in Hong Kong, you probably relate even more so, it's extremely fast-paced. It's an extremely masculine place. What I mean by masculine? Masculine means there's always some kind of achievement, some kind of going forward force. Planning, networking, you're doing something with the result in mind. There is some kind of achievement in your mind. It doesn't matter what you do. From the moment we wake up, we do that. And women here have amazingly successful careers. They achieve so much. But at what price? At the price of forgetting about the second part of ourselves. It's all about being holistic, right? What's the difference between men and women? We have all this feminine energy, we have more of that. But in a city like Hong Kong, this feminine energy gets forgotten, gets suppressed. We don't have time. Like you say, I'm too busy. So when was the last time we just play, or we dance, or we draw, or we just create or receive, or, get intimate really intimate. I don't mean just with a partner. We don't have time for this. We don't have time for pause. We don't have time for space. We don't have time for chaos. We don't have time for letting something die, or even asking ourselves these things. So one of the purposes of Festival Du Feminin was to connect women to this more feminine aspect of their being. So all of the, it was very sensual experience. So we did a lot of dancing, we did a lot of dance performances, a lot of intuition enhancing workshops. So that's one half. And the second half speaks again of the other side of what's it like to be a woman, of the stronger side. So we also need to be, we do have this Amazon and the strength and
empowering.
It is, yes. And we are tremendously strong, but some people do need help with it, men and women, but women sometimes maybe more so. Women feel sometimes suppressed, sometimes, they say yes to things they don't want to say yes to, being, be it a career or man or friends. We feel ashamed of certain things. We cannot express or live fully. So this is why Festival Du Feminin dealt with the second half of this. So we did workshops on public speaking, on empowerment, on confidence, on dealing with fear. So more of this, the stronger side of being a woman. So in a nutshell, that's what it's about. It's about the holistic overview of what it means to be whole, what it means to be a woman. Soft and sensual, but also powerful and strong.
Sounds amazing. I'm definitely signing up next year. I'm really kicking myself for missing it this year. It sounds amazing. Tell me a little bit more about the Eastern practices that you have really helped, obviously enhanced your practice as a facilitator.
So I am very wary usually to speak about them simply because they are, it's the hippy-dippy, new agey stuff. And do
you think it turns people off a bit?
Absolutely.
Right, okay.
Absolutely. So you have to, and also for me, a lot of things, you have to be, anything that you read, even listening to me or listening to anyone, any book that you pick up, you have to filter. You have to filter it.
Yeah, you've got to take away what works for you and what's right for you, don't you? Again,
exactly. And it's all, you pick up something from India, you pick up something from China, from Japan. If you are able to kind of go beyond this, the wording, different terminology, different phrasing, it's all more or less the same thing. Everyone speaks of this energy. Everyone talks about something that is quite similar. And that is the point that all of us have to make. Don't get hung up on the weird words or weird practices or how it looks. Don't worry about it.
So you're really saying that you started out training as a psychologist and that's really about the mind, and by going into the Eastern practices, that got you really about the energy, the healing, the spirituality, and bringing it all together, so it's a much more holistic approach.
Absolutely. That's exactly what happened.
Gotcha.
That's exactly what happened.
Great. Can you just tell me about Rage Yoga?
Rage Yoga is one of the fun things that we've done with the Wake Up and Roar brand. So I keep doing this, experimental practice, again, trying to speak the language of the person. Yoga has this really bad reputation these days. Either it's something super, super spiritual where you sit down and you om, and it's this, weird...
hippy-dippy again.
Hippy-dippy again. I tried. I was looking for... You saw. I was trying to avoid hippy-dippy.
I'll bring you back to that.
But it is. And, this symbolism. There's many studios, many teachers who are trying to insist on this symbolism without actually going deeper into it. Or yoga is something, sexy for flexible girls, something that you can do crazy poses about. But that's so poor. That's such a poor explanation of what yoga is. What yoga is just being aware of how you're moving and connecting your breath with your movement and being aware of what's happening within you as you are doing things. For us, we're obsessed on the one hand with our body. We're obsessed with how we look. But on the other hand, we're completely divorced from our bodies. We have
That's ironic, isn't it?
It's so ironic and it's so sad as well. So rage yoga or any of these types of yoga, Kali, sometimes it's called Kali yoga, the Indian goddess of fury. It's just getting in touch with the anger and with the rage or with these uncomfortable feelings that we try to suppress. And anger is not something that is societally acceptable to display.
So does rage yoga look a little bit more like a martial art, or is it more kind of...
It's sometimes it's dancey. Again, it varies sometimes, but it's more about... So I don't like to teach yoga that is very structured. I always teach more fluid kind of yoga. I hate structure. Any kind of structure. That's why I'm not in corporations.
That's why your hair is pink.
Yeah, that's why my hair is pink. I don't deal with structures very well. So even yoga to me is overly structured. And it doesn't have to be, it's all about movement. It's about flow. It's about expressing what you feel. And sometimes we feel rage. So what we do is trying to get into that. So I use very aggressive music. I use loud music. I drown really loud music so people don't feel, awkward. It's about stomping. It can look like a normal yoga, but taking instead of just stepping, you stomp. Instead of just breathing, you breathe out with power. So it's really expressive. It's all about expressing. And it looks different depending what kind of crowd I have. If it's a beginner, I will make it more structured and follow more what they know. Just start doing more add-ons. If it's people who are comfortable with, less structured things, it would be more of a kind of chaotic movement and maybe dance and maybe just stomping around and screaming and shouting.
I want to come. How can I come to rage yoga? Where do you hold it?
I jump around.
Oh, so
I jump around.
So I would see on your Facebook
on the
page.
Yes.
So if anybody wants to follow what you're up to or get in touch with you, how can they do that?
So two ways. Goodin.HK. This is my number one platform. This is kind of bridging all the practitioners in Hong Kong. So what I try to give people is to help them to find a solution to their problem. It doesn't have to be me. I will help you to connect with your yoga teacher or your wellness practitioner or martial arts or your camping group or hiking group. So Goodin.HK website and Facebook page, that's one of the ways. If it's something that I personally can help with, something that I have expertise with, that's Wake Up and Roar. And all the contact details, all there.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, Anastasia, it's been lovely talking to you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Thank you for having me.
And I think you might see me at your roaring yoga.
Screaming and shouting. Fantastic. Look forward to it.
Thank you very much.
Also scared a little bit.
Don't be scared. I'll be restrained.
No.
Thank you so much. It's great.
You.
So that brings us to the end of another Hong Kong Confidential podcast. I'm Jules Hannaford. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll be with me again next week. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please can you go to iTunes to rate and review it. I would really appreciate your feedback. You can email me at jules@hongkongconfidential.net, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Hong Kong Confidential. If you'd like to hit me up on Twitter, it's at Jules Hannaford. I would love to hear from you.